What's up? It's not just you, gang, and welcome back to the It's Not Just You podcast. Hey guys.
As you can see, guys, we've gone smart casual today.
If you're listening on Spotify, you will find two smartly dressed women hosting your podcast today.
Yeah.
Both in a little button-up shirt.
Yeah,
I feel like
to the top.
I feel like we both quite like a strong
Is this a
collar. Yeah, I really like yours.
No, but as in, you know when you start, this is going to make me sound so uncool. You know when you start doing something and you're like, I think we're doing this, but I'm not sure. So like, you know, there's like, I feel like there's varying trends of like shirt buttoned all the way up and then it'll go to like, we're not doing that anymore. Then it'll be back to like.
Who's we though?
The general public.
Yeah, the Gen Zs.
It's like, are we doing this? Are we doing the button to the top or do I need to undo?
Mate, who cares what anyone else is doing? If you like that buttoned up, then you wear that buttoned up.
Makes me feel official.
The shirt is well and truly shirting.
We were just talking about this earlier well, Rachel saying how she hates this phrase.
Guys.
Again, it's making us sound old and uncool.
No. I refuse to start saying stuff like that as well because that's what makes you sound old and uncool, to say we sound old and uncool.
Okay, fine.
Do you get me though? As soon as you start saying just implying that you're older, I think that's like a road.
I'm more just saying that like this is what people younger than us are saying and we don't
I
like
know, but
and that's the
no,
sign
but it
of
doesn't
being
make it sound old. We just don't like it. Anyway,
well, you need to explain. I feel
the
like
phrase. Obviously, we've gone through the phrase of "it's giving," and like blah
or
blah
just
blah.
It's giving.
Okay, but then the next phrase that I obviously is going around a lot is like, the shirt is shirting, or like the skin is skinning, or the hair is hairing, i.e. like it looks good. But then you can take it further. So I've realized and say things like the cold is colding, or the train is training.
Oh, we're not saying that.
Think of the weirdest
We're
one
not
possible. Like you could say it about
anything.
absolutely anything. The coffee is coffeeing, like anything. But I don't know, like I was chatting with my friend Zach at work because there was one time where in one sentence he said about 3 of these expressions and I was like, guys, I don't know what it is, I just don't love that.
It's because you're old.
No, it's not. I'm not old. I refuse to believe it's because I'm old.
No, but
it's just annoying.
It's just a sign of being older because if you were young you'd just be saying it. When you're young, you don't question whether you're using the slang, you just use it. When you're old,
but I feel like this isn't slang. I feel like it's like, okay, yeah.
It's just that annoying Gen Z language that I hate.
Do you hate it?
No, I don't hate it, but it's just like it's more when people just like speak in that particular voice.
Yeah, the
that
slight
I can only
American
describe as like a Gen Z voice. And I think if you know what it is, you know what it is. But I can't.
But do you know what I hate? When you do actually find yourself saying it, like
yeah.
completely. Like I used to say it's giving a lot. Like I actually
Did you?
It was just crept into my language of like it's giving da da da. It's giving da da da. Like really casually, but I was kind of like, ooh, like let's retract that.
The old slang that we used to use.
Anyway,
like,
the podcast
peng.
is podcasting today, guys.
Proper peng. Do you still use that word?
Yeah, I do sometimes.
Peng. That's peng, mate.
That is. Oh, do you still use butters? I
sometimes.
Do sometimes say that.
Oh, that is butters. That's just such a good word. That is such a good word.
Yeah, but again, it's making us sound old because I'm like
thinking,
the younger generation today would be like, what is that?
We're gonna be like when like people that are like 40 are saying like wicked or something.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome, man.
Awesome. Okay. Anyways, jumping into this week's episode, methinks. What are we discussing, Soph?
What is it giving? It's giving friendship.
It's giving friendship. The friendship is friendshiping. No, guys, we put out a little question box a couple of weeks ago on Instagram. So if you're not following us on Instagram, do hop over there.
Yeah.
It's Not Just You podcast.
You get to have your say.
Yeah, you do. You get to contribute. And we put out a question box saying we want to film a couple of episodes on friendship. What topics do you guys want us to chat about? The responses were flooding in.
Yeah.
All great topics. But today we're going to take one of them, which was essentially, it's not just you who doesn't know how to create a close friendship or like struggles to make close friends. Like, how do I have a close friend?
Yeah.
All my friends, you know, maybe aren't super close. So we thought we'd take that one and unpack it, didn't we?
We did. And we felt like we just wanted to start by sharing some of our friendship story.
Yes. As close friends.
Yeah, as close friends. We would like to put ourselves in that category of close friends.
You would hope.
We would hope so. But we thought, we did an episode a few weeks ago, well, probably a few months ago now, but about friendship, and felt like you guys enjoyed hearing a little bit about, you know, more of the ins and outs of our friendship and the journey of friendship that we've been on. So we thought we'd take you right back to the beginning.
Take you back to the start.
Picture this. It's 2017.
Oh my goodness.
Oh gosh. I realised this year.
Oh my goodness.
10 years since I finished school this year, like year 11. And that did make me feel old.
Wow.
Because I feel like for me, school was...
Wow.
Didn't feel that long ago. Anyway, so that is a complete tangent.
Yeah.
We're talking about when Rach and I first met and became friends.
Yes.
Take it away.
We met at university, didn't we? And
Little freshers.
We actually literally met in Freshers Week, and we originally bonded because we realised we wanted to go to the same church in Birmingham.
Yes.
And that was a relief, particularly for me, because, you know, you've just moved to a new city, you want to go along to a church, but there's like 20 churches, there's lots of different people at all the churches. So to know, okay, we've got this one thing in common from the start, we want to go to this church. The next thing in common was that we lived in the same student accommodation.
We did.
Which was very helpful.
Not like
the
same flat, but the same complex.
Yep, in Birmingham. So proximity, that was brilliant.
You were block 6, 7?
I was block 5.
5.
And you were block...
You're not going to remember.
It was like 23.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
No, that is insane
Oh,
from
well
me.
I really didn't think you got it.
Yes. Block 5, block 23.
I knew it was in the lower end of the 10s.
Yeah, you didn't quite get
No,
it
I
though.
didn't.
But
I'm
anyway.
sorry.
So I would say, like, again, in the context of friendships, okay, that was quite interesting. Like, had a couple of things in common from the start.
And I think, just as a side note, in those first few weeks of uni, you are meeting so many people. And I feel like your brain is in this constant state of like, but are we actually going to be friends? Is this someone that I would actually be friends with? Like, every interaction you're assessing and kind of trying to suss out, not in like a weird way or in like a kind of, oh, who am I going to pick to be my friends? But just, you're meeting so many people, and obviously you're there and you know, I'm not going to be actually friends with all of these people. So who are going to be my friends for this time while I'm at uni? And I feel like for us, in that moment of meeting, it was like, you know, there's some green flags that I was like, I think like this is someone who I would actually want to be friends with, not just because we live in the same accommodation at uni.
Yeah. And then I think we would describe it as like, so that was in the September, and I think up until the January, we were just kind of like, not like surface level friends, but kind of surface level.
Well, we were
like
really.
Convenience friends.
Yeah.
Like, i.e. Sunday would roll round. We both wanted to go to church, so we would,
We'd walk
see each
together.
other for the first time like that week, probably walk to church together. So kind of hear about how each other were doing, our weeks. But like, it didn't really go beyond that, did it?
And also we would be walking in like a big group of people. So it wouldn't even be like, oh, we've got like half an hour on our own talking.
Yeah.
We'd, you know, we wouldn't even necessarily talk every week, because it might be like, you're talking with that person, I'm talking with that person. So we would see each other like semi-regularly, but it definitely wasn't like, oh, I really know everything about Rach and we've gone really deep in conversation. It was kind of just like you say, oh, are you going to church? Like if you looked at our first bit of text conversation, it probably literally just was, oh, what time are you leaving for church?
Yeah.
This time. Yeah, I'll meet you
Yeah.
here. Okay, bye.
And then I remember one distinct moment where we both wanted to go to this kind of like conference thing. And
yeah.
we went for dinner beforehand
Oh,
and we went to Spoons. And like we both have, well, I definitely have a Snapchat memory of this because
Yeah.
of course I Snapchatted it.
Yeah, obviously.
And
We both had a Hawaiian pizza.
Yeah, we both had a Hawaiian pizza and we sat. And I would say that was the first time probably started to get to know each other a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like beyond the kind of small talk each day.
Yeah.
But
you know what's so weird is like when you think back to those times and you're like, I actually don't know why we did that. Does that make sense?
Didn't know why what?
Like why we went for dinner.
Because of the conference.
Yeah, I know. But like in the sense of, I don't remember having a thought of like, oh, I really want to get to know Rach.
I think, but I do
should
think
ask
we
her
got
for
to
dinner.
that point slightly. Like we were on our way of like, even though we weren't there, like possibly knowing like the friendship that could come.
Yeah.
I think we did know each other well enough to kind of think, oh, like that could be nice.
Yeah.
So, and because it
think-
was convenient, again, like dinner before going.
Yeah. I think I'm more just thinking of, I feel like when you go into more like adult friendships, everything feels so intentional and so thought through of like, okay, I have limited time, so who do I want to give my time to? Whereas I feel like at uni, I just wouldn't have thought about it as much.
No.
I've been like, we
let's
probably
go
just be like,
Spoons.
okay, yeah, cool.
Get a
like,
drink.
I'm not thinking, I need to pick someone. Like,
No,
who should I
definitely
use
not.
this slot of my time to give towards Rach? Like,
Yeah.
That's what I mean is like, I can't remember why.
Yeah.
There wasn't any sort of reasoning in my mind necessarily. And like I said, I'm sure I was like, Rach is great, but I wasn't there like, I think this is going to be my best friend.
So we just did that and continued as we were. And then in January, when we came back after the first kind of like Christmas holiday, that's when both of us would like identify that our friendship kind of moved from convenience, casual friendship to like intentionality.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I think how I remember it is like,
why?
I think I'd spent most of the first term of uni, so September to Christmas, I was going to say just surviving. Like, I think I was just, obviously you're in a flat with complete strangers. You want to get on with your flatmates because you have to live with them. And so for me, I was spending 90% of my time with my flatmates, investing in those relationships and like not wanting to miss out on stuff with my flat because I was like, I have to live with these people and I literally didn't know them 2 weeks ago and I'm with them 24/7 basically. So I'd say my main attention for the first term was just getting to know my flatmates and building those relationships. And then I remember going home for Christmas and I think feeling like, okay, I feel like those friendships are established now. And actually there's some other people that I've met, like you, Rach, who I was like, oh, I've not really actually hung out with her.
Yeah.
Like I've literally walked to church with her.
Yeah.
We went for that pizza once and that's it. And so I remember like, this is the order in my mind. Like I remember messaging you being like, oh, like, you know, when we're back, or like maybe it was the first week of uni, like, oh, we should hang out. Like, do you want to come round to my flat or something? Kind of just like no agenda. Let's actually just hang out and not because we're going somewhere or because we have something else on that we need to get to, but just like, let's just get to know each other. That's how I remember.
Yeah. And then I remember, it's so funny actually thinking back to those because I still like remember them. Obviously not all of them, but like quite like there'll be certain conversations that I really remember of like us sat in your flat, like getting to know each other. And you know, when you're just like, if we had then known like what would ensue of just like how many years now, like eight years of friendship, it's just like so mad. But yeah, I think from that point on, I remember in those like some of those conversations, you know, you're going deeper, you're hearing more about each other's like lives, families, like hearts, what they're like struggling with, things they're thinking about. And I think we both probably just made a decision, like the more that we hung out, of like, oh, I actually really like this girl. I want this to like, you know, be a great friendship. And like, even like you say, back at that time or age or life stage, you're not even thinking that intentionally. I think it was just supernatural of like, well, we just love hanging out with each other.
As in super space natural.
Yeah, no, not like supernatural. Crazy supernatural. No, like supernatural.
Yeah.
And then like our friendship just began to like grow and like blossom, I guess. Like
Yeah.
the more time you spend with someone, the more you get to know them. And then I would say it just became a very like everyday friendship of like we just started to do life together. So we would be telling each other about our days. We would pop over to each other's flats. Like if there was a night out, it would be like, oh, are you going? Like, oh, why don't you
Yeah.
come? Like, and then it was like church is just like, you
Like the
know,
side
just
thing,
just
really.
part of like, you know, something that we're doing together as well. But actually like,
Or even just stuff like going to the library, revising together.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, for me, I think a big kind of marker was obviously when you're at uni, you've met in that context, but then stuff like going to like your actual family house. and,
yes,
like you come into my house and things like that where you're like,
going on holiday.
yeah. So I think that was all kind of within that first year, like the kind of markers of, oh, this is definitely going to be a close friendship, because there's not many people that I go to uni with who have like met their parents and like met your brother at that time, and you know, then went on holiday together and things like that. But I think it's just such a different life stage. Like I really can't remember, and maybe just because it's a long time ago, but I really can't remember like thinking too much about it.
No.
It just kind of happened.
I do think, like you say, sometimes you find yourself in scenarios of life where, let's say you've just moved to a new workplace, or you've just gone to uni, or you've entered like an environment where there's lots of people to get to know. At the start, you're almost like, it's almost like this like sieving process of like you're kind of vaguely getting to know each person. And then within that, you begin to work out, oh, I really click with that person, and oh, I really love that person. And then you kind of are intentional about investing in them, and the friendship almost goes deeper. And I think that's essentially like what happened. Ultimately, as a fresher, you can't sustain 50 plus friendships and relationships through uni. So you kind of work out, okay, these are the people that I really get on with, that I love spending time with. I'm now just going to like hone in on them.
But I think why maybe this question came up in the question box of like struggling to make close friends is because I do think once you're out of that life stage of like being at uni or school even, making close friendships is just harder. And I think that's for loads of different reasons. But I think a big one really is just time. And uni is this totally bizarre situation where I know, like, I mean, we didn't live together until like our final year, but like you said, we're in the same accommodation block, or like second year, you live like 2 roads apart from each other. You are basically living with people. It's, if you want to pop round to my flat, it's a 2-minute walk. It's not like even now where, you know, we live like a 15-minute drive away from each other. That then just takes more effort.
Yeah.
You can't just do the whole like, oh, what are you doing tonight? Yeah, just come round for a bit, yeah. And then you come round for 45 minutes and leave or something. So time, I think just, again, I imagine moving to a new city where people have already got established friendships, you then trying to come in and make new friendships is hard, because again, at uni, everyone's kind of on a level playing field of, we've all just left home and we all don't know people here. So everyone's looking to make friends. Whereas, I don't know, if I moved to London, it's like, well, lots of people have already got their friends. So you're trying to kind of see like, oh, you free? Oh no, I'm busy because I've already got my friends. And you're like, oh, okay.
So if you were in that position, how do you think you would go about making friends? Because I think for us, like a massive
I don't know.
pro is genuinely going to church, because you kind of are open to a whole community of people who, you know, are super friendly and loving. But I know if you're not, and like, let's say you move to a city like London, it is legit like, how? And I think to start, you almost just have to go off the connections you already have, like whether you're in the workplace and getting to know people, or maybe you've got like friends of friends, or I think you have to start with what you've got, and then it just basically requires a real amount of intentionality, which can just be really hard, particularly if like you're rejected or you're having to reach out. But I would probably say for me, the biggest thing that comes into making a close friendship is intentionality. Like Soph said, it is thinking, oh, I'm tired and I'd rather have a night in, but I'm actually going to push through that and go and see that person for a couple of hours. Or, oh, they didn't actually reply to me last time I asked to hang out, but I'm just going to give it one more shot. Or like, oh, you know, whatever it looks like for you, I think if you really want to get to know someone, there are just barriers that you have to push through, and then you get to that place where like you have that friendship, and then you're not pushing through the barriers anymore. But at the start, you just do have to be intentional.
I agree. And I also think I'm more putting myself in the perspective of having moved somewhere new and you're kind of back at square one, making close friends. I think just trusting that over time it will come. Like we said, it's like, oh, we didn't become as close as we are overnight. We've been friends for 8 years.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
we've shared a lot of experiences and a lot of moments in life together. And I think sometimes you just can't deny, like I'm sure for everyone listening, they can think of a friend that they have in their life who in some ways you just can't compare to, because it's like you've just been here through things that like is literally in some ways just to do with the longevity of how long we've known each other. Like you've seen me through all these different stages and been there through the good moments, the bad moments, like all of that stuff. And I think if you're at the beginning of making new friendships, it's like you just have to trust that you will go on that journey with new people, but you are just at the start, and that is just the reality of where things are at right now. But you know, a year, 2 years, 5 years down the line, 10 years, I'm sure you'll be thinking, oh my gosh, like we've done so much together.
Yeah.
And you saw me at this point when I was really low, and then we got to celebrate this moment, and then we did all the normal things in between that. And like, that's just friendship, isn't it? It's just like doing things together.
Also, like, I think that comparison thing does come in again sometimes of, you know, maybe people could look at us and be like, oh, how have you, you know, developed that friendship? But like you say, the reality is there's 8 years of kind of doing life together behind that. And it's not something that's like just formed overnight or like, you know, was like super easy. Actually, it's like a lot of intentionality, consistency, and like doing life over a long period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also think though that, yeah, just the comparison thing, I feel like it just creeps into everything. But I just think that actually, as soon as you start comparing, like, oh, well, these people are close in this way, like, it's just a losing game, really, isn't it? And I think all you can do is like focus on the people in front of you, what you can give them, and just like I said, kind of trusting that as you accumulate shared experiences and journey through things, like your friendship will just become closer.
Also, just to say, like, if you're listening to this, like, there could be many people that are basically at a bit of a crossroads in a friendship where it's like you have a decision now as to whether to like walk away from it or to like try and fight for it. And I would say that is another part of maintaining a close friendship. Like, you have to keep fighting for it. So like, you know, like we've said in other episodes, where a friendship is toxic or unhealthy, then, you know, that's different and needs kind of like a different approach. But actually, if you've had an argument with a friend or you've drifted a bit and you feel like there's a conversation that needs to happen, again, I would say that's key to having a close friendship, because it means that you work through the things that are hard and you don't just walk away. And like, across our 8 years of friendship, there have probably been many moments where it's like, well, the easier thing would just be to like drift or to just like can it in, but actually like haven't. And that's why, again, like that's how you create a close friend.
Yeah. I think something else just that I was reflecting on then was just around like vulnerability. And it's interesting. I'd say that I'm one of those people. Well, for me, I know that sometimes I can find vulnerability really easy, especially if I'm being asked or like directly asked about something. Like, I maybe wouldn't find that as hard, but I know sometimes I can find it hard, or not even hard, but just maybe it's not my natural instinct to just like share my life with people. And when I say that, I just mean like, again, all the things that build a friendship up are, I don't know, texting someone like about, oh, this just happened to me now, or, oh, you know, unprompted in a conversation, just saying, oh, I've been thinking about this, or, oh, like, this has really been on my mind lately. Not because I'm like, oh, I'm going to withhold this because I'm really secretive, but I think it's just maybe not my natural instinct always to be open in that way, or to like talk about myself in that way. And it can, sometimes I don't struggle with it, but I know sometimes in the past I have. But I think if you want to actually grow deeper in friendship with someone, like, you have to be vulnerable and you have to share about your life with them. Like, you just
100p.
can't not do that. And I think there's some days where actually I think, I can't really be bothered to go into that, or I don't feel like a massive need to like text you or to text someone about it. Like, I don't feel like I need to talk to them about it. I actually don't sometimes, but then I think, but actually that is gonna deepen our friendship, and actually it means a lot to the other person. Like, oh, you chose to talk about that with me, and that shows like, oh, you really value me, and that's like then reciprocated by them. But I'd just say, like, to anyone who feels that, of maybe their natural instinct also isn't to just openly share about all and I don't always even mean deep things. It can just be like really normal things, but you're just maybe not the type of person that's like wants to talk about yourself or your own life. I would just encourage you to like take up space and do that.
Yeah.
Because otherwise people would just like, I don't actually really know anything about you.
Yeah, exactly. That's very true. Amen, sister. Amen. Anything to add? I feel like we've covered most of those things.
I just would want to say, like, if anyone feels like they're kind of giving up on having close friendships, or maybe you've somehow talked yourself into thinking that you don't need close friendships, I would encourage you to think again.
Yeah.
Because I think friendships are so important, even if you're maybe a bit more introverted or maybe not as much as of a people person. Like, I just think friendships are so key, and having
100%.
close friends who really know you and know you deeply is a really important part of life.
Definitely.
But I know it can be really hard.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
Yeah. I think that is like the myth we want to like unspell.
I don't know.
Whatever.
Debunk.
Is that like close friendships are like, and we've said this a lot, but that they're like just this really like easy, like whimsical thing that just like happens, whereas actually they can be quite gritty, but the goodness is so worth it. So that's our encouragement to you guys today.
Yes.
Keep investing in people, being intentional, and over time, close friendships will blossom.
They will indeed.
So hope you guys enjoyed this ep. We will answer some more, or like want to cover some more of the friendship topics that you guys sent in.
There was a lot about long distance friendships.
Yes,
so episode incoming at some point on that, I think.
Have a great week.
Yeah. We'll see you next Friday.
Goodbye.
Bye.